call because not everybody who couldn't attend live could make this timing. And by the time the invite went out, it was a bit short notice. So I'm going to record the call so that the people who have not been able to attend, they can actually also see the recording. So let me see if I can. It is recording, it tells me. Hopefully I can see the red button when it records.
Yeah, it says it's recording.
It's recording. Okay, great. So thank you very much. I have communicated with you a little bit about Thrive. I think you have seen some of the messages electronically, and I wanted to take the opportunity to actually get at least a few of you, if not everybody, from the 5 cities where we launched online, and then send a recording to people to bring you up to speed to what Thrive is, beyond what you have seen on the website. And also because for those of you who could not attend the event, we will be doing what we call as an offline match. Because you might have heard that at the event, we do actually online match. Because we actually get every mentor to meet up to 3 mentees and every mentee to meet up to 3 mentors. And we actually get that going. Sorry, I have to this slide. Every time I move my cursor, it moves my slide. Yeah, so let's do a very quick round of introductions just to get to know a little bit about you. Can we start with you, Ashima? Ashima, are you on mute now? I'll unmute you. Or you need to unmute yourself. I cannot unmute you.
Yeah, Shivangi.
Okay. Just a very quick round of where you are, what your role is, and what you're looking forward with Thrive.
Okay, so I'm based out of Gurgaon. I moved to Gurgaon from Mumbai last year, and I've been working for last 2 years as a success and career coach, and for the last 6 months as an executive and leadership coach. There's a lot of disturbance from somebody.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. I didn't catch that last 6 months.
Yeah, so it's like a certified coach journey has been the last 2.5, 3 years officially. Before that, of course, unofficially we were coaching. So 2 years, initial 2 years was more on career coaching to professionals, and last 6 months has been on executive and leadership coaching.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ashima. What about you, Santha?
I am Santha John. Currently I am the chairman emeritus of an advertising agency called JWT Mindset, and I was a managing director till 2-3 years ago. And then I went to London in 2013, I think, 14. And I trained in London, and I am now a coach, and I've recently decided that I will focus on health.
Excellent.
Because I also started a company with 2 other people called Elantis Pro, and my website is coachlife.asia. But I'm a little ashamed of my website. I'm going to revamp
it. Thank you very much, Santha. Thank you very much. And you, Neha. Neha, you're on mute. We cannot hear you. I could hear you.
Me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Neha Verma. I've been in HR for the last 10 odd years and grown. I studied HR and I kind of grew in HR. I've been working with the luxury fashion brand Gucci. I've been the HR head actually for India.
Right.
While I have been in my role, I would say a fairly good coach to the teams that I partner with. Somewhere down the line, I thought that I was not really growing, and really my purpose to join Thrive was to get a coach for myself and to help further in my professional growth. I've also, I'm a new mom. My son just turned 1 year old. So I also struggle a little bit to sort of manage the whole work-life balance. So again, I'm looking at maybe getting a coach through Thrive to help me to help me balance and to help me sort of work towards both the priorities. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Neha, and it's great to have a mentee here on. And we have some excellent, mentors in Mumbai because we had a couple of mentees missing. Actually, each city has been quite different. In Mumbai, there were more mentors than mentees. In Hyderabad, many mentors couldn't make it, so it was different in every city. But I think with the offline matching process, this is something that we still hope to achieve and achieve well.
Yeah.
And of course, we are there always to support, in whichever form. And Simran.
Hi, I'm Simran. I've been in the industry for about 18 years. Industry as in technology, like my electronics background. Been with Microsoft for 14 years in technical roles, and off late, I'm leading a technical team there for the premier business which Microsoft manages, and my role is senior technical delivery manager. I have 2 kids, 14 and 8. Both have been while I was with Microsoft. So I think I've mastered few of the things which Neha was talking to. Yeah. My driver for joining Thrive was that I've been involved in numerous mentoring forums within Microsoft or with engineering colleges. So with Microsoft, we are running programs where we try and mentor and coach engineering college students, especially the underprivileged ones, so that they're more industry ready. But when this came upon, I thought this is a great forum to connect with women from other industries and across the experienced lot, but across the dissection. So that's why.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.
And Shivangi, I'm again sorry I couldn't make it to the Hyderabad event.
I know, but it was, we had some logistical challenges ourselves. So as I said, this will still, every mentor who couldn't make it, they said, I really want to be a part of this, and I really want to connect. So,
we can learn together, not an issue.
We can learn together. Exactly. So myself, I'm of Indian origin and I have lived in Switzerland for 18 years, in the meanwhile a Swiss citizen, but remain very Indian at heart and soul, as I say. and I launched actually Thrive in Zurich in last December. And when I was in India for my annual visit, that was the first time that I launched a Mumbai chapter, and the response were overwhelmingly positive, and that got me to create like a much bigger dream, I can say, for India, going to 6 cities in the last 2 weeks, which has been an exhilarating, huge learning, exhausting experience. On the personal side, I have 2 boys. They are 5 and 10 years old. So even I am struggling with the same struggles that you all have are going through also, because I am a leadership development consultant and coach and trainer and facilitator and assessor. I do the whole gamut of things in the area of leadership and talent management. So I've been running my own business for 3 years now. And almost 4 years now. And before that, I had around 15 years of working with 4 different industries. So I worked in pharma and reinsurance, chemicals, manufacturing, professional services, so many different industries, really to get an experience of, how to manage talent and how to ensure that the talent strategy of an organization is aligned to its growth strategy. And I have had the benefit to have many different regional, so Europe, Africa, Middle East, and also global roles where, I have had US, Japan, China, etc. as a part of my remit. And that was the starting point for Thrive, because as a part of these organizations, I would say, I have launched formal mentoring programs. And of course, as useful as they were to give exposure to leaders, etc., I noticed two things which were the shortcomings of these programs. One was that when a program is within an organization, the mentor always has what I call as an organizational objective. So the mentor can never really be in the service only of the development of the mentee and what's best for the mentee. The mentor is also always thinking about what does the organization need. So this might sometimes mean retaining somebody who's actually ready to move ahead. This might sometimes mean not really letting somebody thrive in other kind of opportunities that might be beyond the organization, right? So that was one limitation of in company program. And the third was just organizational politics. I saw that a lot of mentees, and they would also speak to me because I was more the neutral, person there, saying that I have this mentor and he has offered me this role. It was typically a he most of the times. I don't know how to say no to him, but I'm not really interested. And, so there was all of these kind of elements that got involved because of organizational needs and political scenarios, right? The other thing that I noticed, which made me start Thrive as a Women for Women program, was the unconscious bias in the system, sometimes conscious, sometimes unconscious. And that is that senior leaders were mainly men, and hence they were mentors who were more men, and they mentored more men than women, some women, but also men. And what I noticed that when the mentors were men and the mentees were women, they couldn't really understand the challenges. They could intellectually understand, but they have never lived through the challenges themselves. Like we talk about, balancing work and life, children and a career, etc., right? Besides, some of the things that work for men do not necessarily work for women. So a mentor would actually tell a mentee to be, assertive and, to make your point in a meeting and make your presence felt and all of that. And we know from research, and I'm a lot into this kind of research, though I do not call myself a feminist, that the exact same qualities would be, when shown by a woman, would make the system or whoever is around call the woman aggressive, bossy, bitchy, whatever. And for men, the exact same qualities would be considered as leadership, taking charge, etc. And this kind of bias is everywhere, right? I mean, we see that in VCs funding new women entrepreneurs. We see that in the way succession planning works everywhere. But for me, the starting point was, and of course I cannot change the entire system, but I really thought, where could I change? And that was really by allowing women mentors to be mentors to women mentees. And Simran and Santa, you probably in your roles have been mentors in your organizations or maybe even outside. But a lot of Thrive mentors are becoming formal mentors for the first time. And that's because the organization did not actually offer them that opportunity, or they did not take that opportunity, because I feel that women always pull themselves back. Even when I first launched Thrive, I had lots of applications of mentees, but not so many mentors. And I'm talking in Switzerland. And I had to, write and create this whole thing saying that there's nobody perfect and you are going to be a fine mentor. And it doesn't mean that you have to have, 25 years of work X to be a mentor. In fact, my hope is that some of the Thrive mentees today can also become Thrive mentors. It always depends on the fit. So someone like you, Neha, with 10 years of work X, you can happily be a mentor for somebody who has 2-3 years of work X, right? So I think that I wanted to democratize the whole aspect of mentoring. And, a lot of people actually, when I spoke to them about the idea, said, this is completely foolish. Why would somebody who is in a senior role, who has successful, give their time for free, to somebody, to another person, and usually a stranger that they don't know. And of course, I had tested the idea with some women I knew, and they said, this is a good idea. But a lot of people said, come on, this is not going to succeed. And now I have hundreds and hundreds of women literally across the world. So, now we're going to Germany and Munich, we're going to Amsterdam and everywhere, enough people have signed up, enough women have signed up both to be mentors and mentees, to show that naturally we are very, very generous. We really want to help. We really want to support. And that's why launching this as a nonprofit initiative has created, I think, a lot of energy. Yeah. So just a short story of how Thrive came about. Let me quickly walk you through some of the details around Thrive, because it will help you to look at how Thrive looks at mentoring, right?
Hello.
Sorry, go ahead. Oh, Gauri. Hi, Gauri.
Hi, I saw that you were missing me and moving on,
Yes,
so I
I'm
thought.
really sorry. I did not see you online before. And now
Yeah, I was, since my picture is not there, probably it's kind of dark. So I thought I should just interrupt and just say hi to everyone.
please give us a quick intro, Gauri. That would be great.
Sure. Yeah, hi. So, hi everyone. I'm Gauri Ramani. I'm based out of Bangalore. I'm a leadership coach. I'm a certified leadership coach, Marshall Goldsmith and ACC, ICF. And prior to this, I have around 32 years in the IT technology, telecom, and consulting world. So this is my post-retirement kind of work that I'm doing. One of the primary focus areas and why I was interested in Thrive, one of my focus areas is developing women leaders. I have been, for the last at least 10, 15 years, most of the times when I was in India, I was typically the senior most woman in the companies that I've worked for. Some companies I work for include HP, Nokia Networks, Infosys, Philips Semiconductors, a wide range related to technology field. And so I used to end up mentoring women by default. I was the mentor in the company by default for women. But I also did a lot of internal coaching, which was not women specific in general for men also. So when I came out of this full-time job, I thought, okay, I don't want to be working 8 hours, but then there is a lot I can help with for the younger leaders in the making. So Thrive gives me the platform to work with women specifically. So that is my interest in this. So I couldn't attend the session in Bangalore. Sorry about that. So
no worries. Thank you very much, Gauri. I don't know how I missed you. Have I missed anybody else? Because when I put my slides on, I cannot see everybody at one go. I have to scroll. And I realized that I might actually have missed somebody else. I think we covered everybody now. Right. So thank you very much. It's really great to have, women with your experience and your passion to support others, as a part of Thrive. And we have many, many such women that I had the pleasure also to meet in person. And I hope that, I will be actually meeting a lot of you in person. In fact, one of the great things that is happening is that Thrive will probably be collaborating a lot with ISB, with the Indian School of Business in Hyderabad. And they're very interested both to look at Thrive, because of this national, international aspect, what is the difference in mentoring, and, they have a research interest. But there might also be an opportunity to create a more, sort of business Thrive plus business school kind of consortium. So I'm speaking to Rima Gupta, who heads the Learning and Management Center at the ISB. She was a speaker at the Hyderabad event. And I think exciting things are to come. So I'll keep you guys posted.
So, just another quick interrupt, Shivangi. I'm from ISB and I'm part of that L&D SIG. And doing actually an event on personal development program coming up sometime in May in both the Hyderabad and Mohali centers. So I don't know if that has any linkages with what Thrive is trying to do. I just got a...
With Thrive, I focus on mentoring, right? So though I'm a leadership development consultant, I do programs all the time. With Thrive, the focus is really on mentoring, and the conversation I've had with Rima is much more around the alumni of ISB, which is around 2,000 women in fairly senior roles across India. And, they have actually said that mentoring is something quite important for them, both to be a mentor and to be a mentee. So yes, I think development of mentors will be a theme, because what we have realized is that the mentors are helping the mentees to develop, and how do we help the mentors to develop? Because here you see now a lot of you are coaches and also certified coaches, which may not necessarily be the case for a lot of Thrive mentors. They are functional leaders, they are people leaders, but they may not have actually done a coaching education. And so how to actually, train maybe mentors on coaching skills is one of the themes. and then also learning with each other, forming peer circles of the mentors, etc. So we have a few ideas. It's really, I only met Rima like 5 days back, so it's all very new. But I'll definitely keep you all posted.
Right.
So with Thrive, the mentoring relationship, we say, though it is a mentor who usually has greater knowledge, skills, and experience, and a mentee who's seeking to increase either one or all of these things, we really believe that it is a collaborative partnership and an equal relationship of trust, guidance, and support. So time and again, especially the relationships which are now 5-6 months old, a lot of mentors come back to me and say that, I came into this thinking that I'm the one, giving, and the mentee is the one receiving. And I am also actually, benefiting so much from having a new perspective, from creating almost a different version of myself with this particular mentee, and Thrive mentees. And here we only have Neha, but across the board are also very committed, dedicated, very smart women, usually doing very well for themselves, and so keen to learn. And at the same time, they are also able to engage with the mentor in such a way that, for instance, and we will support that process, give the mentor feedback on what is working, what is working less, right? So here we put a few benefits for the mentee. Maybe they are more obvious, to get some guidance, a fresh perspective. A very important thing being a safe space to try out new ideas, because it's actually proven by research that women are self-censoring machines. Even before, the system and anybody else says why something would not work, we have our own levels of saying why something would not work and pulling ourselves back. And I think this is where a mentor can really help the mentee to have a safe space to try out new ideas, to think about, okay, what are the possible obstacles? What are the possible risks? How can we mitigate those risks? And, how do we ensure, how do we actually make ourselves, we can never actually be failure proof, but how do we reduce the chances of some of the things that you want to try, which is out of your comfort zone, to set you up for success, right? So that, I think, probably is one of the biggest things that a mentor offers a mentee, and that is this confidence boost and say, go out and try, and what's the worst that can happen? Problem solving, improved skills, and skills can be in various...
Sorry, Shivangi, sorry to interrupt you, but are you running some slides as well while we are talking?
Yes. Can you see the slides?
I can just see the first slide, which has been there. It says Thrive.
Okay, at the moment, I'm showing a slide which says benefits mentee mentor. Can you see it, Neha?
I can see it.
Okay, you can all see so I don't know what happened. Maybe your screen didn't refresh, because this is the fourth slide I'm showing.
Okay, no, I thought you are referring, but looking
at
but
can you see it now? Can you see it now? Maybe you need to just refresh your screen, because everybody else can see this slide.
I cannot see myself.
You know what I can do? I can just go out of that and
can you stop sharing and start sharing again?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I will do. I will stop share, and then I will share screen again, because sometimes it freezes. And now I have... Can you see it now? Did that work now? Okay.
Mine is not coming.
Who is that? Who's saying mine is not coming? Santha, but you're on audio, no?
No, I'm trying. I'm trying it on laptop, but my face is not coming.
Oh, okay. So the video, you'll usually have a video button that you'll have to put on.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, correct.
Okay. So let me continue also for
all right.
The time. So and then the thing is around access to networks and resources, right? And this access can be in various forms. You as a mentor, you have actually opportunities to know people whom the mentee may not have access to. You can give them opportunities to be, maybe to attend relevant events. It could be also to meet, maybe there is something that they bring up in the field which is a little bit beyond where you think your expertise area is, but you might be able to connect them to somebody who can speak to them about that, right? Because with Thrive, we've said that this is not about technical, functional, skill development. With Thrive, you get a mentor, typically as a mentee, who is holistic, who will look at both personal and career development, but they are not your trainers and giving you skills on, there were some mentees, for instance, who said, oh, I want to get better at social media. And I said, yes, but that's not the sort of mentor that you will get, through Thrive. Of course, they can help you and give you some pointers, but we are looking at a much more holistic development of the mentee through Thrive. And for the mentor, and those of you who have mentors probably have experienced that, right? That it refreshes you every time you get a new mentee and you listen into their perspective and their challenges. It actually allows you to look at, a life through a different lens, and that's quite exciting, I see, for a lot of mentors. Some mentors have mentees who are, generation Z or X or Y, whatever they say, and the mentors came back to me and say, this is incredible that, somebody could think that way. Because the relationship is so close and full of trust. So the women, the mentees in this case, express what they really want to say rather than, filtering it and saying, something that typically happens in an organizational setting, to a manager, etc. An employee will say things that they think the manager wants to hear, right? So that's very interesting for a lot of mentors to get unfiltered information on how somebody thinks about something. And this might be about, the way they look at family, for instance, or relationships, etc. So that's quite interesting for the mentors. The satisfaction of seeing someone else grow, I think that is the driver behind a lot of the Thrive mentors who sign up. And as I said, there is an opportunity to be challenged also, depending on the mentee, and we facilitate that process, and I will show you how. There will be an opportunity to get some pushback, to get some challenge, and that can be also quite interesting and exciting for some mentors. So taking this time out, gaining fresh perspective, I think that goes for both mentors and mentees. Some of the mentoring myths, and a lot of you are coaches, and you might wonder, okay, why is it not Thrive for coaching and why is it Thrive for mentoring? And one of the things I wanted to bring into the perspective, and that is in my mind, the difference between a coach and a mentor, because as a coach, you can also be somebody who's not been there, done that, but you learned to be a coach. Right? And I wanted to offer the opportunity for many more women who've been there, done that, and who may not have necessarily studied to be coaches, etc., but who have the propensity to develop another person, who are very interested in that, and who can be then supported through the community, etc. Right? So that's why I moved much more into the mentoring rather than the coaching space, also to really stay away from all of these certifications, etc., which I know are becoming quite pertinent for the coaching profession. And as I said, to democratize this, this whole development aspect, because my belief is that, it's a myth to say that mentoring is a one-way relationship. It's really where both parties grow, and that there is nothing called as a perfect mentor, right? Just as there's nothing like a perfect spouse or a perfect child or a perfect friend or a perfect candidate for those of you who recruit, there's nothing like a perfect mentor. So I keep telling all the mentees, that work with the mentor that you get, because especially when we do these online sessions, they meet, maybe up to 3 mentors. And there are some mentors, I must admit, who are popular, so everybody wants them. And there are some mentors who are less popular. So I'm always trying to balance that, saying that there is nothing like a perfect mentor. You will always learn from a mentor. You will learn different things. And with Thrive, for a lot of them, you get your first formal mentor, but it should not be your only mentor. You should have as a mentee a board of mentors. And with this relationship, the way it functions with a little bit of structure, I don't think it's like, hugely bureaucratic, but there is a little bit of structure. There is a mentoring contract. There is a mentor guide. There is a mentee guide. There is a meeting review template, So some of these things that are there in place, which sort of make you reflect more. What is it that I'm actually seeking? How am I actually doing on my, working on my development goals? Have I implemented some of the things that the mentor has asked me to do, or have I shied away and stayed in my cocoon, etc.? that experience hopefully will give the mentees an opportunity to seek other kind of mentoring, both men and women, right? Interestingly, a lot of men sign up as mentors for Thrive in spite of the whole narrative being women for women. And they try to convince me on email how they would make an excellent mentor. And I tell them, I have no doubt about that. And you have many opportunities to be mentors, and probably, you should be, and you can, connect to various people in other ways. But with Thrive, I'm trying to focus myself and saying, the definition of Thrive is to allow more women to be mentors. And if we open up, and I think we will open up to a more mixed audience, I think my first step will be to open up to men as mentees and not necessarily as mentors. Because I'm just trying to change the system a bit, and the system is privileging men, as a lot of you would have experienced. Another myth is that a mentoring needs to be long-term. Now, I know that all of you probably, and I've had that too, have a lot of what are informal mentors. This might be an uncle, this might be a friend's dad. It might be any of these, people that we know. It might be, I remember a very good friend of my mom, she was like, never a formal mentoring relationship where we discussed mentoring objectives, etc. But she was an informal mentor to me as I was growing up in India for many years, conversing around what do I want to do, and okay, I want to, probably move internationally, etc., right? So all of these things can happen, and they can remain long term. But with Thrive, again, we define this to be a 1-year period where you meet as a mentor and mentee once every month for 1 hour. That's like the minimum requirement. And I have kept it at that to encourage more and more women to say, yes, I'm really busy, I'm very successful, and yet I can do this, right? And that's why I have actually kept that time, quite the minimum requirement quite doable for even very busy professionals. Having said that, a lot of mentors and mentees do spend more time. What I do think would be great, though, is to keep to this 1 year, to actually say, this is the year and this is the development objective that we think is possible for us to work on as a mentor-mentee pair during this year, right? And then the relationship will evolve. You'll probably still keep in touch, but at least you're not within this framework of having a meeting and doing the meeting review, and I'll show you what that is, etc. And as I said, it's a myth that you should have one mentor. You should definitely have multiple ones. It usually helps to have one formal mentor at one time. I must say that once in my career, I was offered an executive coach through the organization and a mentor at the same time. And it's a bit challenging because sometimes, they might give you different perspectives on the same thing. And I was much younger then, to be able to discern, then I was a bit confused. So I think that it's usually good to work with one mentor, one formal mentor at a time, and engage in that relationship and those experiments. Let me pause here for a moment. Any comments, any observations? Sure.
You were just saying that it's good to have lots of mentors. I have multiple mentors, like in friends and all that, and I'm telling you, it causes confusion.
Yes.
Because you get overwhelmed yourself.
Yes.
You have to listen to so many people, and one of my friends keeps saying, "Why do you ask so many people?"
Yes. I think you make a very good point. For me, I can say this, right, at a particular time, and I shared with you the story of Thrive, and when I wanted to start Thrive, of course, I spoke to a lot of senior men and women that I knew. And I was so confused because, some of them said, this is a rubbish idea, why would you spend your time and energy doing something like this? And then the others were over enthusiastic and said, wow, this is absolutely amazing. And then I was like, at the end of the day, I just had to make a call myself, because you get, and I think that's what I have noticed, especially when you have more and more experience, you will always get contrasting views, from people. And at some stage, you really need to make up your own mind, right? For more younger mentees, I have experience it's good to, have one mentor, work with them, develop yourself, because as I think a lot of mentors on the call, we have all gone through a development journey, right? I have had a coach myself, offered by the organization, and then I just paid for myself because I just saw so much value in that for almost 10 years, and it has been, and I think that was one of the things that even made me jump from a highly successful corporate career to starting my own business. I needed that, that kind of, somebody saying, yes, you have all of these qualities and you could run. And it was quite a big jump, to leave a cushy corporate job and start my own business. And those of you who are running your own businesses, you'll know that this is quite challenging to do, to not have, a fixed paycheck that comes at the end of the month. And everything that you do and you actually get back from the system is depending on your own initiative. You can, of course, get up one morning or 2 mornings or even a week and do nothing, but that comes with its own response, right? And I think I would have never done that, but for this whole, relationship that I have developed with mentors, but also more specifically with my own coach, and a certified, very highly experienced coach who's based in London. And I think she really gave me that perspective. So I really value coaching. I just realized that coaching is out of reach for a lot of people. It's fairly expensive. I don't know how it is in India, but here at least it's very, very expensive, to have a high quality coach who spends, time with you once or twice every month, at least for a couple of hours, etc. So that's why I thought, let me bring at least, and interestingly, at least 25 to 30% of Thrive mentors are coaches. So with a Thrive mentor, I actually give a coach to somebody who would cost many, many thousands on the open market. And I think that's a huge, huge benefit that a lot of Thrive mentees are gaining. And the coaches are very interested in doing that because their typical coachee is also a senior leader where the organization affords paying that kind of money, right? So they are also doing this as paying forward, giving it back to younger women, and they're doing this work pro bono. So it has really created this very positive, virtuous cycle. Let me speak a little bit about the role of the mentee and the mentor. One thing to say here is that we really want the mentee to be driving the relationship, right? And the most important way to do that is to take initiative to formulate very clear mentoring goals. Now, I know that this might be not very obvious in the beginning. For those of people who registered on the website, you will see we gave them some ideas. And a lot of people select multiple things, and the most common thing is to say professional growth. Now, what does that mean? Professional growth in what terms, and what would you like to focus on? So if you were to look at it and say, I have 12 hours with this amazing mentor who's going to dedicate their time and attention to me, what is feasible in that, and what would I like to focus on? The first couple of conversations I know will be about really getting to know each other. But already then we encourage the mentees to start formulating some goals. What would be the goals? What would be the most useful way in which I could spend time with this particular mentor? And that's why the mentors also need to be quite articulate in terms of saying, these are my strengths. These are the kind of, places where I can be most helpful in, etc. Right? The match that we have done is typically based on the LinkedIn profile, what you have said are your strengths, and of course, geographic location in this case. But the mentee needs to be in the driving seat. Now, I have launched a few of these, as I said, both in Switzerland and in India earlier, right? So 4 or 5 months back. And one of the things that I have noticed is that the mentors were more committed than the mentees, which came a bit as a surprise to me. The mentees were very excited for the first 1 or 2 meetings. But as soon as the mentor tried to say, push them, nudge them a little bit to do things which maybe were not the easiest to do, then the mentors came back to me, and this is not 1 or 2, probably 5, 7 mentors came back to me and said that, oh, now the mentee has canceled the meeting for the 3rd time. Like, okay, maybe this is time to have a conversation around, is it really a logistical reason? Because a lot of us, I think, as human beings, we do not want to speak about, things which are not very nice. So it's very very easy to say, oh, I'm so sorry, but I'm stuck in a traffic jam, oh, I'm so sorry, but I have to travel now on work, and cancel a meeting. So that's why, and you will see that in the mentoring contract, we ask you, when you meet with your mentees, right in the first meeting, be very clear about, first of all, how do you want them to communicate with you? Is this email? Is this phone? What is it? And also be very clear, especially around this thing around cancellation. I think the cancellation piece is very important to talk about. Whoever cancels, right? Either the mentee or mentor, how is it going to happen? I also encourage people to say, set your 12 meetings already. Don't wait for each meeting to set to the next meeting. It's not going to work. Create a rhythm for yourself, right? You might say, okay, every, Thursday for lunch, every third week in a month. That's where we meet. So something like that. Make it a pattern, and just like you do a business meeting, set it up for the whole year, and then be very clear around, okay, doesn't mean that everybody can do all of those meetings. How are we going to change when somebody needs a change, for a genuine reason? Because we know life happens, but be very clear around how it's going to work. And once a couple of meetings are canceled, and this is a new experience of mine, that meetings do get canceled, and people are not sure now, are these meetings getting canceled only because of logistical reasons, or are there other reasons? There are two things that we would ask you to do. First is, of course, to speak to each other, speak to each other saying, how is this going? Is there something that we need to flex in the way we work? If it is not working for whatever reason between the two of you, then please, by all means, connect with us. And we will be specifying to you, there will be local chapter leaders for each of the cities. And this team will be, actually working with the cohort of usually 30, 40 women in terms of mitigating that, right? But as a first step, please try to sort it out. I mean, both adults, maybe the mentor has to take a little bit of the role. I have seen that the mentees sometimes struggle, to actually do that. The way I got to know that was I had launched a chapter in January in Mumbai. And then I went back to the mentees and mentors and said, I'm launching another chapter in Mumbai. Please recommend anybody if you know. And then, of course, I asked, so how is your mentoring going? And because, of course, all of these things we had specified. And it took a long time. The mentors were pretty quick in saying, I don't know what's not happening. From the mentees, it took much longer for me to draw out, or for Priya, who's the community manager based in Bangalore. I'd also asked her to call and figure out. And the mentees struggled, hid a little bit behind the fact that maybe it was not working. And I'm under no delusion, right? I think it's 80-20. 80% of the relationships will work, 20% will not work. And that is fine. It's important to bring it to a respectable, respectful closure. And also through Thrive, and that is happening with 2 Mumbai mentees now, you have the option for us to be able to match you with another mentor. Similarly for the mentors, I have a mentor saying that, my mentee is okay, but it seems as if, I can be actually so much more to a mentee who would be far more, dynamic. And actually, interestingly, in Delhi, for instance, we have a lot of mentors who have taken 2 mentees, saying that, give me more than one and I can, experience how it would work with different mentees. So that is another thing, that is possible. And in Hyderabad, that would be very welcome actually, because Hyderabad is the place where I think I have 1 or 2 mentors less than the mentees. So if you are ready to take more than one, please let us know. And then, be sincere and committed as a mentee. We keep telling them, be willing to try new behaviors. Just because you have never done something, don't say I can never do it. Just complete the follow-up actions and be open to both receive, which hopefully the mentors will be giving you, but also to give feedback. And I'll show you a mechanism that supports that process. Similarly with the mentor, right? You're developing the relationship, you're supporting, you're usually the one, more senior in that relationship. So you probably need to show a little bit more encouragement and also soliciting feedback from the mentee. And then we also say, please sponsor the mentee's developmental activities. These might be resources, books, articles, meeting other people, inviting them, allowing them to shadow you. Those of you who have been in organizational settings, you're going through a negotiation, you're going through something interesting, allow them to shadow you, guide and counsel them. These are just words here, but in the mentor guide, I have put, some key things that you can do actually under each one of these, right? Teaching, I find teaching as a lost skill nowadays. I went and did a master's in organization development the last 2.5 years. Well, I finished last September. And I must say, I absolutely loved to go in a formal learning setting again. It's completely different as compared to studying something. And Santa, you said you did that too with your coaching education. I don't know how your experience was. I just loved, this whole thing of being taught and then also teaching myself. I mean, that those of us, I do it all the time because I'm a trainer. But for those of us who are probably doing less of it, it's quite exciting to, teach somebody something, because you always learn in the process. Being a role model and motivating and inspiring. I think the motivation and inspirational part is probably, the most important thing that a mentor can bring to the mentee. Right? Couple of things that I wanted to introduce here, and at the end of this call you will all receive, and some of you might have it already if you registered online, there is something called as a mentoring contract, and we actually have a few elements in that, and this is the only thing that Thrive as an organization, we collect it back from you. So we actually get you to do that. Initially we would say in 2 months, now we're saying 3 months, because some people are taking longer to actually define, what some of the elements, especially related to the goals. So what is the overall purpose of the mentoring? And then what are the specific objectives under that, right? For somebody, the overall purpose might be that I need to become more politically savvy. And the specific objectives under that might be, first, I need to read a room or read the stakeholders, how to manage the stakeholders, how to categorize them, how to know what are their communication preferences, etc. Right? So whatever your overall objective purpose might be, please put some specific objectives, which will then help you to chart a roadmap, right? And also gives you some perspective in saying, okay, 1 quarter, the first quarter we are focusing on that, the second quarter on that, etc. So as much as planning that you can do, and as much as mentors can support mentees with the planning, I think that you will be coming to a successful end. Otherwise, it might happen that the year is ending and you're having very interesting conversations, but then at the end of the year, you've still, quite away from meeting that purpose of yours. So put both purpose and specific objectives. Also specify what are the benefits for the mentor. I always encourage the mentor to say, how am I going to gain from this? And this might be linked to exposure to a new industry, like you said, Simran. It might be linked to, getting to know somebody from another, completely other generation, a different perspective, a different personality type, whatever it would be that you would want to gain. Then a time commitment that you are making. As I said, we say in Thrive, minimum requirement an hour per month. Now, I know that this is not something that people always follow, and I'm perfectly fine with that. So some people say, no, we're going to connect for 30 minutes on the phone every week. Fine with me. Some people will say, no, the first 2 meetings we are going to have, they're going to be 2 hours each, because we're really going to get to know each other. And then after that, we have a different rhythm. A lot of people do 90 minutes instead of 60 minutes, because that seems to be more feasible for them. And the first few meetings we will do in person. The other meetings we will do via an electronic medium such as that, especially with all the traffic issues we hear of in different places. Finalize, those kind of things. How is it going to work? Or you might even say, we're going to experiment, for this quarter with this kind of time, and then we relook at it after the first few meetings. The logistics, as I said, very important. Who's going to start the meetings, who's going to send the invites, and as I said, if there's a cancellation, how do you manage that, etc. How are you going to evaluate? At what frequency? Are you going to have a quick conversation at the end of every second meeting, saying how is it going? Or are you going to wait till 6 months? Whatever it is, those are the sort of things that you can put a first perspective of in the mentoring contract. Now, the contract is a dynamic document. Though we collect the version that you send us first, we are not equipped at the moment to be, to keep in touch with all the hundreds of pairs as a nonprofit, right? So at the moment, we do not have any sponsorships, etc. So everybody's doing that as a pro bono effort. So we collect the first version of that, but please feel free to use it the way that you think would work for you. What is important is that you have that conversation and that you write it down what you have said. Because I know that sometimes there are misunderstandings, because you might say something and one party understood it in one way and another party understood it in another way. And I think that's where the mentoring contract really helps. So it should be a document which is a guideline for the mentor and mentee to say, this is how our relationship is going to work for this year. And of course, talking about things like confidentiality, right? It might be, I don't know, a mentor might be helping a mentee with a job search, and that might happen. And then you might say, okay, the confidentiality of that is a bit different. And, I'm quite happy for you to, in your network, figure out people for me. But otherwise, most of the times we say a mentoring conversations, they really need to remain very confidential because, that's the nature of the relationship. Here I have put some factors for a good meeting, and this of course was presuming a more face-to-face meeting, where the choice of location, the choice of timing becomes important. Probably you don't want to meet at the end of the day when you're really tired. It makes sense to meet earlier in the day. And preparation, let me show you in a moment what I mean by preparation, and especially a lot of preparation required from the mentee side, right? And from the mentor side, being present, giving like undivided attention. I think in today's life, giving somebody the gift of attention is probably one of the most valuable gifts we can give, so keep your smartphones away, put them on mute and all of that, right? All of the good things that we know, but sometimes may not follow. What amazes me always in India is people, if I call them, they lift the phone and say, hello, can I call you later? I'm in a meeting. So why did you pick up the phone? I never really got that. I don't know if any one of you have that habit, in a meeting or in a conversation to respond to your smartphone. But we always say, and I did that also in the event, saying, please shut it off. You won't need it for the next couple of hours. And then experiment with the duration, because as I said, for some of you, a shorter meeting may work better. For some of you, a longer meeting may work better. Reviewing the meeting. And that's what we offer from Thrive as the meeting review template. And this is something that we want the mentee, as it says here, to complete and send to the mentor in 1 week's time after the meeting. A lot of mentees do it on the same day. Now, this is not something you send to Thrive, right? This is something you send only to your mentor. It helps you in 3 different ways, and I'll tell you once I walk you through what are the contents of that. The first is my key objectives and learnings from this meeting, the meeting that happened. So you went in with some objectives. What did you learn about that, right? What was the most helpful contribution from the mentor? And this is your way or our way to give an appreciative feedback to the mentor. Because it might be that during the conversation, the mentor said something that they thought was very pertinent, but actually for the mentee, something else that they said or did was much more useful. So this is a soft feedback mechanism for the mentee to feed back to the mentor. Very important, my action steps until the next meeting. And this is where we set a requirement almost in a mentoring conversation or relationship to say, okay, so what specifically could be done, right? If you're meeting once a month, there are 4 weeks in between, what are the sort of things that you would want the mentor can suggest for the mentee to do, and you can mutually agree to. And then the specific objectives and topics for the next meeting, right? So you see this process is a bit circular. It always starts with the mentee preparing for that. I mean, this shouldn't take you that much time, but what's really great is that you're filling that review template, and the mentor also, has a perspective on that. And you can really look back on it, the last 3 meetings, the last 6 meetings, you can start seeing, okay, what pattern has emerged, for the mentor, they could say, what sort of things do I say and do that the mentee finds more interesting? For the mentee to say, okay, what are the objectives that I have set up for myself that I probably, action steps that I agreed that I have probably not done. Because in many ways, we do not want the mentors to police this for you, but at least you're aware that, this is what you have promised yourself for your own development. And of course, I ask the mentors to say, the last 3 times if things have been said and not completed, then of course you can, I saw you there for a moment, Santa. Then of course you can actually, just go ahead and remind them that this is something that they need to do.
I wish I could see.
Yes. Any questions, any comments, any observations?
I wish I had your mentee.
Sorry?
I said I wish I had your type of mentees.
my mentees would run away if I asked them to do all this work.
You see, it's all about setting expectations. I use a version of that, in fact, a more comprehensive one for my own coaching clients, Santa. And these are senior leaders. Okay, so but I make it very clear right in the beginning. If you are going to be my coachee, this is how I work. And to be honest with you, it helps me also to jog my memory because I have a few coachees. But I think that it really helps them and it puts them, puts things into perspective. Now, as a Thrive mentee, you're benefiting a lot, right, from a mentor or senior mentor. So it's not that difficult to make that happen, and it is happening. It is really happening, yeah, because these are the expectations that we set up for the mentees, and this is what you sign up to. This is what you sign up to. To be very honest with you, if I were a mentee, I did this, it would take me 10 minutes. Just do it on the same day, it's done. I mean, Neha, you're the only mentee here. How do you find this process? Would you find this cumbersome for you? Is this something doable?
No, it's absolutely doable. I mean, I think at the end of the day, if as a mentee you've signed up for something like this, there is a purpose.
Yes.
And if it's your own development, and if you're not willing to invest that time in yourself, then what is the point?
Then what's the point, right? Then what's the point? And that's why I tell the mentors, if your mentees are not doing, not forget this, this structure is just to help you to develop. But if they're not doing the action steps, if you talk, and it's a nice talk, but nothing really changes, is that the best use of your time as a mentor? So I always say, question that with them. And then, of course, try to find the reason, because it might happen that sometimes there are people who are, it's not that they don't want to do something, but they can't do it. And because they don't have the skill to actually say that they can't do it, they just don't do it. I have somebody here, I can't see the name, with a hand up. Is that, who is that?
This is Ashima, Shivangi.
Ashima, yes.
Yeah, just wanted to throw an observation listening to you for the last, say, almost 45 minutes to an hour. I found the entire mentoring process very similar to the coaching process, actually. Because the entire thing which you're saying, the template, everything is what we really use with coaching. The only difference which I found was an add-on, which I would say. That as a mentor, we will be imparting certain skill sets to the mentee, which as a coach we wouldn't do. In coaching, you're just helping them bring out. So for me, it seems very, very similar to what I follow with my clients also. What the process you're saying, the meeting review template, everything is what we ask them to do. Because even with these clients, if we don't have this kind of a follow-up, we are not adding value.
Very true. Now I have heard that internationally it is a bit different than in India. So as I said, there are quite a few coaches in Thrive, right? And one of the challenges I have heard is even paid executive coaching assignments, the coachees are not becoming, are not being very sincere in terms of follow-up, in terms of, keeping the meeting timings, etc. I always really personally believe that people will treat you exactly the way you let them treat you. So if you are, quite clear, and that's why I think things like the mentoring contract help you, right? You're quite clear about the deal. There is a give, there is a take. And there should be consequences. If you allow that behavior will perpetuate. That, as coaches, if you allow something once, twice, thrice, then it becomes a pattern, it becomes difficult. If you try to, break that pattern right in the beginning, the chances of success are higher. And this is a requirement of signing up as a Thrive mentor or mentee. So either side can challenge if the other side is not following that. Now, of course, as I said, the burden, if I can call that, is more here on the mentee because it is their development that the mentor is focusing on.
I think that's what happens in pro bono sessions too, when we do pro bono coaching. And that's where in executive, what you're saying, that's the reason because the organization is paying for the coachee. And that's where it's very important for the coachee or the mentee to be ready if they're coming, because organizations sometimes would put a coach for an executive feeling the need where the executive themselves are not really ready.
And that's the benefit we have. We have this benefit. Each and every mentee in Thrive put their hand up themselves. They went and registered themselves, So there is, the need is there. They felt it. Nobody told them, no organization told them, go and do this, So that's why I feel that the chances are higher that they will focus on that because they wanted it.
They want to, and I guess here the mentor's role would be, to a certain extent, I can't say 100% here, but when, like you said, that if they are not following up to those tasks, and they might say on the face of it that, we didn't get the time or I was stuck in traffic, but very occasionally that would be the real reason. Somewhere deep down, there would be something else. Either they don't feel confident enough to do that, either there is some fear stopping them. So once that's for the mentor to really work and understand, and that I think where the coach's role may come a little aligning there, to really find out that what is the reason when this was so important for you and why is it still not happening, and then maybe work on that.
Sure. Yeah, you say it really well, Ashima. That is indeed the case. Here is some inspiration for the first 2 sessions, where we say that, get to know each other basically, and both personally and professionally. The mentee might share their CV, their development plan, but even the mentor can say, this has been my journey, my life journey. How have I developed? What are the skills that I'm particularly good at? What are also things that did not work for me? So sharing also your failures. I think all of these trust creating mechanisms that you already know in terms of this one-on-one relationship, right? And start clarifying the goals and your inputs. Then we say and I used to say by the end of the second session, finalize most details of the contract. A lot of people are doing that, by the end of the third session, and that's fine. Priya will be following up with you after the 3rd month saying, okay, what happened now? Where is your mentoring contract if you have still not sent it to us? But we receive most of them, around 80% of them we receive, by the 3rd month. And if we do not receive that, usually it's not about the contract, it's because something is not working. So we intervene. As I said, we like to intervene as less as possible. It would be really, really good if you can manage this within yourselves. Also because we are not equipped at the moment. Now, we are changing this a little bit with the local chapter leading team, right? So in Mumbai, Neha, there is Anita, there is Vijay Lakshmi, there is Bharti, and in Hyderabad, we have Smriti, and we have Yogini. And what I have now realized is in each chapter, I need maybe 3 mentors and 1 or 2 mentees. So up to 5 women to manage this group of 40 women, because everybody, as I said, is doing this, in their own time. And what I wanted to show you here was this Thrive ecosystem, as I call it. I've realized as Thrive grows that this local chapter leader role becomes really, really pertinent to keep connected with the community. Because as you see here, I'm sitting here and I can do these things virtually, but over time, I really want this to be a self-sustained kind of organization, right? So we are inviting always local chapter leaders who would be able to, who are keen on community building, who are networkers, and who are committed towards sustaining their own chapter. And this will be also, quite an autonomous thing, right? Because I'm very happy to be as away from everything as possible, because you're on the ground, you know what's happening, and you have a smaller group to focus on. So anyone of you also on the call who are interested to join the local chapter leading team in any of these cities. In Bangalore, I must say, I already got so many. in Hyderabad, I'm still looking. In Delhi, I'm still looking. In Mumbai, I already have plenty again. I did slightly different things in Goa and Pune, which was more awareness generation events. We call it the Mentor Her event, where I got a wider cross-section of women and got them enrolled to saying what is Thrive, but also starting with what is mentoring, because these markets are a bit different. So again, those 2 locations, if you know women, and I have 1 or 2, but as I said, I want 3, 4, or maybe even 5 per location, both mentors and mentees, because what we have said with Thrive is that after 6 months, there will be 1 event, and after 12 months, there will be another event, which will be typically led by the local chapter team. And the content of that, we are developing that. I have a little bit of I run the Zurich events because they started already in December. So I always have a design idea. Doesn't mean you need to follow that, but it would be to get mentors and mentees together and have development, have conversations, because this mentoring relationship is one-on-one. But with Thrive, we really want people to interact in the community. So really start interacting with each other. What we have done, we started, I must admit, with a WhatsApp group. It became too noisy and we got too much feedback saying, my God, this is like too dynamic, too vibrant, too much information, but I can never really find stuff that I wanted. So now we have moved it, almost, not fully, but almost closed down the WhatsApp group and moved to a closed Facebook group for all Thrivers, across. But what I recommend, and this is the chapter leader, but anybody in the chapter, to say you could create for your own chapter, of course, your own WhatsApp group, because that's very manageable, 30, 40 women. It's not something that I or Priya get involved in. That's something which is left up to the local chapter leaders. So you're just to say that if you have a local chapter leader, yourself interested, or somebody else, especially in Hyderabad and Delhi, then please let me know. And this is the ideas around Thrive, to have a close-knit community which is virtually connected and in-person connected by local in-person events and workshops. This will be so much defined by the local chapter leaders. So Basel, which is another city in Switzerland where I launched it, they're doing an event every second month. And almost they connect every month or more socially, just going out for drinks or dinner or something like that. So every chapter, I think, will have its own flavor. What I definitely want to do and use some of the skills that exist. Sorry?
I'm sorry, I interrupted. I meant, who's the Hyderabad leader?
See, as I said, there was not a single leader. Usually it's a team. At the moment, we have Yogini. You know Yogini, right? Santha, yes, so we have Yogini and Smriti, and we would want another, Santha, if you're ready to join, that would be wonderful, and to have 1 or 2 mentees. And there are 1 or 2 mentees who already said they want to join. Yeah. So just to say that there will be trainings, videos, and workshops that I hope to do. You will also receive an email where I did a Facebook Live with the lady. And here you see, her name is Deepa Narayan, and she wrote this book called as Chup. It's a very new, very pertinent book for our generation, I must say. And she has done research on the modern woman. And she says that a lot of modern women are what she calls as feminists with bad habits. So we might be wearing, trousers and short skirts, but actually a lot of the things that are inside us, we suffer from some of the same challenges that our parents did and that our moms did. And we are not even aware of it. And sometimes we are actually in a much more worse case because, for instance, something like double duty, right? Our moms probably were not in the space where their income was considered to be a primary contribution to the household income, whereas ours is a primary contribution for most of us, at least. And at the same time, the double duty has not ended. We are still responsible for the children. We're still responsible for elder care and so on. Just yesterday, I was at the Zurich Development Center. There was a PricewaterhouseCoopers author. She's a partner, and she actually did research on the British women, in this case, on the British young women, starting with the young women, but then she looked at also women at various stages in their lives. And it's fascinating and also shocking to see the kind of repercussions it has when you make decisions like taking part-time work, for instance. And how that plays directly on the pension. Pension is a big theme here in the European countries. I know it's less so probably in India, but how that plays so negatively on your pension because you took part-time work or you took roles which are more in the administrative and care professions instead of science and technology, where there are more men and which are better paid. And most interestingly, how the social fabric is changing, where cohabitation, at least internationally in European countries, is considered to be a done thing, instead of marrying. But the disadvantages of that, especially when a cohabitation relationship changes after 10 years, 15 years, a lot of divorces, around 40% of divorce rate in that 40 to 46 kind of age group here. I know in India it's on the rise, probably not as astronomical as some of the European countries. But then what disadvantage the woman has because of, getting divorced and spending some of their most productive years contributing to the family at the cost of their own career or income generation opportunities. So fascinating studies. Chup, by the way, is a book that we have gifted all our mentors during the session. And for those of you who've not been able to attend, Priya will post this to you. Please send Priya your address. For the mentees, we have actually given you access to something called as the Strength Finder. And some of you might know that. It's the book, of course, the Strength Finder, but the online questionnaire that you can take. And that's then at the end of that questionnaire, you get a really nice report which talks about what are your top 5 strengths. And we ask the mentees to, share these strengths and the report with your mentor so that they can also work with you, and we really believe that instead of always saying, what are my development areas and keeping on developing that, it would be also interesting to say, what are my strengths and how can my strengths help me mitigate some of the things that I'm not so good at. Right. So those are the 2, symbolic gifts giveaways that we've had for Thrive. Great. I've seen that I've gone a little bit about my time, and I know that I have been talking a lot here instead of making it interactive, trying to squeeze it in that hour. But please, any questions, any comments? And as I said, this is one opportunity, but please feel free to also, email with me, connect with me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way to do that. And I'm very happy to, also reconnect and respond to your questions also after now, because I know that we are a bit in a time crunch now. Any
Congratulations, Shivangi. This is stupendous what you have done.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I see somebody else has raised their hand. Why can't I see the name? I just cannot see the name. Is that you, Gauri? I can see Santa, Ashima, but I can see somebody with a...
No, it's not me.
Okay. I can see somebody with a hand, but I can't see the name of the person. Unless you write your name like Santa and Ashima have done, I can't see who it is. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, ladies. And we will be in touch with you, especially the people who are in the local chapter leading team. They will be in touch with you to match you. So if you are, let's say, a mentor in Hyderabad, a mentee will connect with you, and they will actually give you, you might probably be the one then, taking that next step, helping them with the mentoring contract, etc. We have had a few
both a mentor and mentee.
Say that again.
I said, can I be both mentor and mentee?
I have got that question before. And if that is you, Santa, then I'm just wondering who can be your mentor.
No, I had a mentor in London and she was so good.
I know. Yes, and I mean, I can tell you tons of mentors have asked me that question, and also for getting mentors outside of India, which is very much possible because we have a thriving group internationally. So yeah, please write me an email saying that I would also like to be mentee, and then I have see how I can match you. Especially for some of the senior women, to find a mentor probably is not the easiest thing to do, but I'll try.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice talking to you. Have a very nice afternoon, and let's keep in touch. Okay. Yeah. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Thank you, Shivangi.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.
Shivangi.
Yes.
Yeah, just a question. I missed the last few minutes. Probably there was a power drop and I was reconnected.